as we know right now with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, they are currently in the temporary restraining order. That motion was granted to the FTC, where Xbox, Microsoft, they can't go ahead and close this date. They are going to trial where they're going to be presenting their case against the FTC. And this was something that people had said Xbox kind of baited the FTC into doing, as they wanted to accelerate the process of getting through the FTC. If not, they would have had to wait all the way until August 2nd. And they were planning on actually closing this deal with or without the support by July 18th. So the FTC saw that they were planning on closing the deal, went ahead and filed for the temporary restraining order, and they're hoping to get a preliminary injunction. Now, when it comes to the actual deal itself, we do know now that there's going to be a 5-day hearing. I believe the FTC wanted a 2-day hearing. Microsoft said they wanted a bit more time just to make sure that they can get all of their information, all that type of stuff. They don't want in any way to leave a crack where they could screw up and lose this case against the FTC. And they were granted that 5-day hearing, with the pre-evidentiary hearing being held on June 21st, and then the evidentiary hearing being held on June 22nd, June 23rd, June 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. So at the end of this month, we will know really what is going to be happening with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. So if Xbox goes into this case and they do lose, a preliminary injunction will be granted to the FTC, which would essentially end this deal from going through. And we have this article here from Tweakdown saying Microsoft may abandon Activision merger if the federal judge grants an FTC request. It says here, the fate of the Microsoft Activision merger may hang in the balance of a decision from Northern California's federal courts. In a recent court filing, Microsoft and Activision lawyers indicate that the acquisition could be terminated if Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley issues a preliminary injunction at the FTC's behest. Now, something that is very interesting about this judge is that Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley is the same judge that ruled on the gamers lawsuit. And obviously that went in favor of Microsoft, went in favor of Xbox, where the gamers lost the case. They were suing Microsoft for this deal, saying that it was anti-competitive, and it got thrown out. So it is the same judge, and that is potentially a precedent as to what this judge is thinking about the pushback against this acquisition. It continues here and says, the U.S. Antitrust Commission wants to stop the merger and has challenged the deal in its own internal administrative courts inside of the federal court. This is by design, and the FTC can effectively kill the merger through years-long process where the commissioners, not the administrative law judge who oversees the case, have the final say on the merger approval. Obviously, this would take a very long time, take a lot of resources and a lot of time for Microsoft, that they may look at this and think that they would rather just walk away, pay the $3 billion fee to Activision, and then go and take all the cash that they currently have and spend it on something else. Now, what would they be spending that on? We don't know. Would it be other acquisitions? Would it be further investment into their first parties and into creating more third-party deals to get games over to Xbox Game Pass? In my opinion, if this deal does fall through, I would much rather see Xbox take that money and reinvest it into their first-party studios, make sure all of the games that they have from the current studios are as the highest of quality possible, because they already have a ton of studios, and then take a bit of that money and go out and reach third parties to get more games day one into Xbox Game Pass. And I mean big games, big AAA games that would blow people away if they landed day one into Game Pass. Now, when it comes to the FTC, we don't really know what they have other than the documents that have come out, which look kind of weak. So people are thinking here that Xbox has a very good chance of winning unless they have something up their sleeves in terms of information that would absolutely prove that this deal is going to be anti-competitive and that they need to block this deal. It says here, the FTC has been creative in its tactics. In the most recent motion, Microsoft lawyers say that the FTC opted for an 8-month schedule for the admin case rather than a shorter 5-month proceeding, which set the first hearing on August 2nd, well past the merger's July 18th expiration date. Obviously, that was strategic. They wanted to get past that expiration date, probably hoping that Xbox wasn't going to go ahead and try to close this thing before, but they were. That's what the reports were saying, and that's why they filed for this temporary restraining order, trying to get that preliminary injunction. Now it says, knowing that the FTC would rule against the merger and effectively kill it, Microsoft and Activision had planned to combine anytime after June 15th, and this prompted the FTC to seek an emergency temporary restraining order to prevent the two companies from merging for a specific period of time to preserve status quo and to address the more important request, a preliminary injunction order. Judge Corley has granted the temporary restraining order. Now, the PI, the preliminary injunction, is the commission's goal. Obviously, that's what they want to happen. And they seek a very specific preliminary injunction, which would prohibit Microsoft from merging with Activision for the duration of the administrative lawsuit, which, like I said already, and they said in the article, could take a very, very long time, which would cost Microsoft a lot of money and resources to do that. Maybe they're looking at this as it's not even worth doing that. Specifically, it says, in this case, the proceedings before the ALJ would last until at least December 2023 at the absolute earliest. And this is what the Microsoft lawyer had to say on that. And that's just the beginning. The FTC has passed a new law that allows the commissioners to ignore the administrative law judge's decision and instead put merger approval up for a vote. The process between the ALG's recommendation and the FTC's final vote could take another year. So that's insane. It would just take such a long period of time where the merger could be held in limbo for at least until December 2024. And as a gamer, if that's going to be the case, I honestly would just hope that they're not going to waste all those resources on this stuff to push this all the way to December 2024, because it will take some focus away from the current first party studios that they have. It has to. It takes resources. It takes money. It will have effect, I think, on the current offerings Xbox has, where it will make maybe things like Redfall happen again. Who knows? But there will be some sort of stuff and resources going towards it that I would much rather Xbox be putting towards the games that they currently have in works, especially after the most recent showcase, which I thought was phenomenal. There's so many games coming out. I'm not even thinking about any of these Activision Blizzard games at the moment. I'm sure, I mean, I would like Call of Duty in the service. I would like to see Diablo come into the service. I would like to see their catalog of games and their older games eventually be made and brought into Xbox Game Pass. But as of right now, everything that they're offering, it's way back on the back burner for me. So it says here, to keep the merger in its current state will require renegotiations and many millions more dollars being spent on attorney fees and filings, all while both companies would have to continue independent operations as the video games industry continues rapidly expanding and evolving. And knowing the importance of the preliminary injunction decision, Microsoft lawyers have asked Judge Corley for enough time to prepare, which was granted, which is the 5 days. So this is huge, and this is going to happen a lot sooner than we expected. We're going to know essentially what the fate of this deal is in the next 2 weeks. And there's going to be a lot of information and a lot of news talking about this. So it will get very interesting. And then let's say the FTC wins here and the preliminary injunction is granted. The next thing is Microsoft going to abandon this merger? Or are they going to continue to fight this? Because to them, as Phil Spencer has said multiple times, this is about the mobile side of gaming. And maybe to them, they look at the return on investment, even after all the money they would be spending on continuing to fight for this thing through 2024. Maybe to them, that return on investment is worth it. So we will see. But I'm going to leave the video there, guys. Let me know what you think about all of this stuff. Do you think the FTC is going to win? Do you think Microsoft's going to win? If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.